Hello, my name is Dovid. Be timeless. It's 4:20, so let's get high. All right. The shalom, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. You know, they say in the 60s, tune in, I don't remember, tune in something and drop out. Anyways, I wanted to speak today. I'd like to answer my friend Carol. He asked me a question about sexuality and age and interest. And this is really a very big topic, getting right down to it. And there's many very interesting Jewish ideas. And a person could wonder, why should I care what the Jews do? So here's the thing. Let's see, everything's based in the Torah, in Jewish law, and the Torah, the rabbis say about themselves that they are the strictest of everyone. No one's stricter than the rabbis. To be stricter than the rabbis is too strict. And so one of the first things people ask, so just to answer the question, why should other people who are not Jewish care about Jewish law? I mean, because it comes out of the Torah, and the Torah is truth. And in the way the Jewish people conduct themselves, when they conduct themselves according to the Torah, is a teaching to the whole world that this might be able to help you out to have a healthy sexual life. Because a person, no matter really what their age, when they've lost their appetite for sex, they've really lost their appetite for life. I was once on a bus. I was in Vancouver, and the bus driver just lurched forward, and I fell in this woman's lap. And the Canadians are very nice, and I said, I'm sorry, and she said, oh, that's just fine. For a minute, I thought I was getting lucky. And that's how it is, until the very end. They say lots of times men who have heart attacks, end up in the hospital and just go crazy for the nurses. Because, a sexual energy really animates the human being. And it's used for much more than just sex. I forgot two things. Oh, well. And so oftentimes it can be that two people who maybe, were in love, they're still in love. And I guess to a certain point in the relationship, after maybe a certain amount of time, maybe, the man is getting old. What does all this mean? And suddenly the mixture has changed. And maybe the things that excited the people before don't excite them now. So to be able to understand this, and this phenomenon is pretty easy. That we've all go through puberty, and then and then during the teenage years, it's not just the energy and the hormones and everything is growing, but it's also the sensitivity. Just like children are very sensitive to heat and cold and just basic things of the body, that a teenager is very just blown away by this sudden imposition of sexuality into the person's life. And life isn't hard enough anyways, just being a teenager, then you have to deal with that. And it's very difficult. And some people have more assistance than other people, but in the end, everyone goes through it. And uh, you know, you come out the other end, and you're 20 years old. And 20 is considered when life begins, because we start living our lives in decades. And the 20s, the person is just, young, mature, and in a sense, they're at the sexual height of their life. But that's really not true, particularly for women. And, but men, the hormones of men might be like really, chugging away. But that is only like kind of superficial sexuality. And when they get older, and the 30s are considered the strength, that's the 10 years, which is the person is the strongest. And so if the person has been in their 20s ruling over their sexuality, not masturbating. I mean, men, women, they can do what they want, but men, they need to do this in order to make their will strong. And women can feel that in the side of a man. And that's one of the things that attracts a woman to a man. Because attract a man to another man. I don't know. But just speak, heterosexually, that people link up, and when they feel like, wow, man, you're the other part of my soul, that's a reason to get married. And sometimes, you could really love the person, but start feeling, I'm not so attractive to the person. Not so attracted to the person, say to the woman. So here's the thing, I've mentioned this before, man, it's a very important thing, that the sperm is made through the man looking at women. And so, it could be that maybe, the woman is no longer interested in attracting the man. A woman's interested when she's making herself look beautiful to the man. So, so one of the things I just wanted to mention has to do with sort of Jewish custom, I think, more than Jewish law. I mean, there's no law about how to be sexual, but there's many laws about other things. Like Jewish people, we don't have sexual relations during menstruation. And one of the things that this does for the relationship is that there allows a span of time, maybe like a week, where you're not permitted to one another. You're living in the same house. You're not permitted to one another. And this can build up a longing for the other person. Whereas if it just was every day the same, you can just always have sex, then after a while, there's no kind of real cycle going on. It's just a straight line. And so that just kind of peters out. Probably a good term for that. Anyways, so the woman, the way it used to be, before we went into exile, is that a man took a wife. And see, one of the advantages in taking a wife is that if suddenly there's war and they call you to war, so they ask, anyone here just took a wife and within this year, and all the people who did, they need to go home. They shouldn't fight in the army, because they need to be home for the first year so they can make their wife happy. Make her happy, make everything right. And after a year, you can start traveling and go in the army. But you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to go to war if you have a new wife. And you have to provide her a house. And in the house, there has to be, this is like her house. The man cannot say, I'm coming over tonight. She has to say, either through her words or through her accent, she dresses up real nice, and kind of give him the eye. That's a sign, hey, you're invited over tonight. The man's invited over to his own house for his own wife. to have sex. That's the Jewish custom. That's the Jewish way. That's always according to the woman. And since men tend to want sex like all the time, so that energy builds up in them until the woman is ready to release that energy and to receive that energy. And that's really a very, beautiful thing. And it's kind of our custom, but people could learn from these things. The Arab people, because the Arab and the Jews were the Semitic people, were the direct descendants of Abraham. And they have like sort of different customs where they're very much into the modesty of women. They have some of their women just completely covered up. But it doesn't mean that they don't think their women are beautiful. On the contrary, that's why they cover them up. Because the Arabs have in nature, they're a very warm-blooded, emotional people. And as a result, it could be a lot of worrying out there. If someone took his beautiful wife outside and someone looked at his wife, the guy's going to just like get really pissed off. There's going to be wars. And so he decided the best way to do it, we'll just cover our wives up. And then when they go home, they take this stuff off and they dress up in a really sexy outfit. So in case the man, wants to have sex, she wants to be ready. Everyone has different ways of dealing with this. But the main thing in Jewish law, I suspect also in Muslim law, in Islamic law, that, it goes according to the woman. The woman has to want. And so, one of the ways that, like men, we look at women and that turns us on. The sight of woman. With women, it's the opposite. Women like the sound. And that's why men, they're famous for, sweet talking women. Because women love the sound of the voice. And they love all the promises. And even if they know in their heart, this dude's a liar, but it's just like nectar to them and they like it. And that's how men seduce women. And that's a kind of conquest that's really very shallow. The real thing is, I knew this guy and he was like my age, and he was going on about how, he had lots of money, this guy, and he had he was telling me he had like 10 women in a night. So I said, well, they're all different women, right? And he said, yeah. So I said, but you couldn't have 10 times with the same woman. He said, no. And see, that's kind of a real kind of just a shallow sexuality. When a person is in a deep relationship with someone after the 20s and the 30s, and maybe they've lived together for decades, then the sexuality can be used in a very different way. It allows like a kind of communication where all of the, dazzle is worn off, and what there's left is just love. And sex in its essence is a way to transmit one's love. A man can have sex, produce sperm all of his life, and a woman can receive it all of her life. It says in the Talmud that the womb of woman never kind of wears out. It's always alive. It always wants, sex. And but having sex with someone that you've known for a long time, maybe to everyone else, it's just an old woman. But to the old man, to the mate of that old woman who they've lived together maybe for many years and had so many experiences together, she's the most beautiful woman in the world. And that's really how men, should grow with their women and want to give, and want to have sex with a woman for the woman's benefit, not for the man's benefit. The man's benefits in sex from satisfying the woman. That's what's really nice for the woman. Just checking out what. Yes. All right. Uh, uh, yeah. So anyway, so that's a very important thing. That it's really about a woman, including sex. That when the woman wants to have sex, and you can't say so much how the. Yeah, I mean, certainly the woman has the right to not want to have sex in a particular way, if she doesn't want. No one should force a woman, but generally a woman is very amicable and do whatever the man wants in order to get the sperm. If he wants to do it this way, that way, she doesn't really, care so much. But there is, a special thing about human sexuality is that with all the animals in the world that have sex, they all have it from behind. And the human being is the only animal, creature, pretty much, there might be exceptions, that has sex face to face, which is a really big deal because, man and woman, it says that the human being, the baby, the human being, whatever, is a combination of, it's a three-way partnership. Man, woman, and God. So a person could ask, no, God creates the man, God creates the woman, God creates the baby. Where's the partnership? Well, in one sense, that's true. And the partnership is really in the man and the woman who want to have a baby or just want to have sex. And then, like God enters into that. And it becomes this, this three-way relationship, where the creator is there with us when we have sex, and God really likes it. There's nothing you can do sexually. A guy's going to like turn away and say, no, that's disgusting or something. God ain't like that. Whatever we love, God loves. And beyond that it says that it says, as I'm pretty sure in the Talmud, that man creates, with the sperm, is created like the bones and I think the brain, like the white things. And from the egg is born, I think the skin, maybe, I'm not sure, but the woman, no question, is the flesh. It's not talking about the essential organ. Well, I guess that the brain is. But anyways, I think the nails, maybe the nails, I forget but anyways, it says there. But after going through all the parts of the body, what goes to the man, what goes to the woman, it says the face is from God. And so to be looking into each one's face and each one's eyes while having sex, and the sex after a person has experienced a real, I don't know, big just sexual experience, physical sexual experience. So some people want more, and they get this and that, all the different things to try to get it more. But that's not really the thing with sex. It's not to have more. The thing with sex, and what Jewish law prescribes, can't force a person, but prescribes, is that the main thing with sex is to orgasm together. It's not how strong the orgasm is, but how close the communication is, so that to feel one another and one another's needs, and one maybe needs more time, and the other is supposed to adapt to that, or maybe the man can't hold back anymore and the woman tries to adapt to that. But what are you trying to do? You're trying to orgasm at the same time. And that's the true one flesh, because the feeling of sexuality, why it is so strong and like nothing else in the world, is because the human being, the first human being, was was made androgynous. One human being able to implant, to impregnate, this being, this androgynous being, and to give birth. But the man couldn't see the woman, so God had to make us into two. Adam means one blood, Aleph Dam, one blood, and that's certainly what we are. And when we connect through sexuality, it reminds us, we remember of our androgyny. And that's really what we're feeling. That's really the feeling of sex, is that androgyny. And that this person, as close as one can come to, like having the other part of their soul, whether it's really or not. I mean, but it feels like it. And that's nice. And the communication then, when two people really come together, it's not like each is just trying to get as much pleasure as they can, but the pleasure really comes through trying to orchestrate this so that it can happen together. And that does something in heaven. And also, it's like unity is really the greatest pleasure in sex, not orgasm. So the reason why this, obviously, why this kind, and there's so many more things to talk about when it comes to sexuality, but the reason why this knowledge has been lost, basically, is Rome. Because Rome has pushed their agenda, which is a very male agenda, and has turned sex into a male-oriented thing. It's all about male ejaculation, and a woman is just there to help the man achieve that. And the woman really means nothing whatsoever. She's just completely secondary to the man. And even though, we live in this Roman Empire, the Western civilization, this veneer of bullshit they pull over everything, and it's just a complete lie. And worst of all, is that they attack people's sex. And they tell people things that are just wrong, like the supreme cunt in the court, who at her confirmation, the judges never would do anything like this. They would ask him questions, and they always demur. They would never say how they personally feel. And she went in there with her nose stuck so far up in the air that if it rained, she would drown, and declared that she believes that that life begins at conception. And the truth is, it doesn't matter at all what she believes. Her belief is not supposed to come into justice. You believe what you want to believe. People believe what they don't know. And she doesn't know the truth. She believes something. That shouldn't affect things that go. And no one even complained. Not even Dushewitz. No one complained. And this is a strike against every woman in the world. There's no question she is the supreme cunt, to do this, and to do this to every one woman in the world, when all other peoples in the world know that the life comes into the embryo, into the mother later. We all, the Semitic people, the Jewish and the Arab people, we're at 41 days. The Jews are like very exact. The Arabs are more, general, but it's all around the same time. And doctors say that also, that the zygote becomes an embryo, at 41 days. But you got Rome, who they just go in and they fuck up everything. They teach people that sex is evil, that you're born into evil, or according to Martin Luther, who started Protestantism, that we're born between shit and piss. These people are sick, and they're selling the lie, the same lie that the prick in Mocha Loco sells. And it's coming to a point, this is talked about in the prophecies of the end of days, that in the end of days, there will be a clear choice. And there's no question that America, because it's an immigrant country made up of people from all over the world, that we have to choose. And we see it wasn't just an election. People are either you're going to choose the lie, and if you don't choose the lie, then it's like, fuck you, get out. And other people, I wouldn't say they have the truth, but their intention is the truth. A human being can't do more than that. So, I have a good question here that I'd like to just someone asked me that what happens to victims of abuse? Well, there's a famous thing in the Mishnah which says that Hillel or Shammai, they were standing by the shore and they saw a skull float down. And it said to the skull, "You're drowned because you drowned someone. And the person who drowned you will also drown." And that's the thing, with abuse. And it even, says that men who abuse women oftentimes come back as women, and in order to be able to feel like what a woman feels. And sometimes you abuse animals, you come back. You can't come back as an animal, but you can come back like connected to the animal to feel what the animal feels. So certainly, this kind of abuse, and I remember I met some dude once when I was working in the club, reading tarot cards, and he came up and he was like really, as a young man, everything looked cool about him, but there was something obviously wrong. I asked if he could talk to me, and so what he said was, he said, I grew up, I think in some like Yugoslavia, it was part of Yugoslavia, and my father raped me. I don't know, every night, but frequently. And he said, and I have a hard time, loving anyone. And he asked me what he should do. And I gave him the best advice I could, which is, it has to stop with you. If you play it out, then you're going to do the same thing to someone else, and they're going to, and what you have to do, what your test in life is you went through this, and now you have to hold it inside of you until you die, and that will kill it. And that's what God gave you. I'd never say he deserved it. He has some sort of karmic, that's not for the human being to do. God makes sure that everything is judged. The human being, we have to look at judgment from our side, and we have to say, this is a horrible thing. To abuse, certainly to abuse a woman, or so much more so to abuse a child. These are just the worst things in the world. And who does this? Amalek. Amalek, is the worst part of Rome. And that's what they're known to do, that they were constantly going after people's sex. And you could tell when Amalek killed someone on the battlefield, because they would cut off the man's genitals and throw them up in the air as though showing God, this guy wasn't perfect. He did things sexually which were wrong, which is just bullshit. But, that and that's what they do. That's and that's the that's what the Catholicism is built upon, and the same thing, they attack homosexuality, and there's nothing in Torah that prevents people of the same sex from having sex, except if you're a Jewish man. In the same way that they teach that black people are cursed to be slaves. None of this shit is true, and I'm sure there's a whole bunch of other things that are just as rancorous, and it's just really horrible. And the one thing that we could do to get rid of these people, is just to make them pay their property tax. I mean, this is just a travesty. The lies they tell, and for me, the worst of all is that Jews are God. Some Jewish man is God. Us Jews, we might act like God, but we're certainly not. And to take a Jewish rabbi and a prophet and to nail him up against the cross and say, I mean, this is just terrible. And Rome needs to do tshuva. They need to repent. And the easiest way to repent is take Jesus down from the cross and burn your book, that is horrible story. You want to pray to the cross, go ahead. It's a sign of Mars. Rome always prayed to Mars. But you got to take the Jew down. This is just bullshit. This is the lie of all lies. Anyways, I hate to end on a sour point. That's pretty sour. Sexuality is very sweet. But, it's the kind of thing, if you abuse it, you lose it. So if you have respect, not just for the person, but just for the whole sexual thing, and try to retain one's sensitivity to it all. And there's kind of a natural kind of, sort of embarrassment and that we share with the other person. And that, says, if you want to get the truth out of somebody, ask them in the bathhouse, because it's hard to lie when you're naked. And anyways, with that, I guess I'll say good Shabbat. See you next week for the last of the 7 weeks, which is Malkut, which is royalty, and certainly which is woman, and a lot to say about that. Thank you very much for watching these broadcasts. Please subscribe. Please go to my website, dovidhouse.com, and you can buy a book. Very illuminating stuff. Anyways, have a very good week. Goodbye. Thank you so much. Get high, man. Get high, stay high.